My name is Jules Chin Greene, and I'm here at C2E2 2026, and with me in the pop spot is Veronica Roth. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you.
So how does it feel to be back in Chicago, which I understand is your hometown?
Yes, I live here. So for me, it was just driving down the street, basically, to come here. But I am always happy to be here.
You know, we all love like a good like hometown commute con situation for sure.
Yes.
And so just to pivot to your books, something that I am really amazed with your writing is the world building, and particularly with books like Arch Conspirator and the way that you like conceptualize these new systems of infrastructure and whatnot, and how you describe them within like genre settings. And so when you're creating a new world, like with Seek the Traitor's Son, which comes first, like the visuals or the conceptual infrastructure?
I think I am a systems first kind of person, so it's nice that that works for you in my work, because that is like where it begins. I like to create, a government, a religion, an education system, or whatever feels most natural to the world, because those things have a way of permeating through the rest of the story. And in Seek the Traitor's Son, it's a lot about this kind of cult that's taken over this futuristic world, where they worship a fever that kills everybody who gets it, and then some people come back with special abilities. So you could see why a kind of religion would develop around that phenomenon, and it ends up influencing, all the rest of the world building in the story. So it's a good place to start. It's very efficient in terms of world building, which I guess is why I start there.
For sure. And it's also interesting to me then that you're able to transfer that that infrastructure within like its own unique like visual schema, I suppose. And even though it's like stuff I've never seen before, like it comes across like on the page as like, oh, like I can totally picture it in my mind. Like this makes total sense. Because I've been reading like my arc of Seek the Traitor's Son, and so as a writer, like, is it a constant challenge to imagine something in your own head and then put it down on the page and be like, does this make sense to the reader?
Yeah, that is always a concern, right? Does this make sense to the reader? But that's what you have revisions for, So I try to, in the first draft, build a world that I like, So there's, like in Seek the Traitor's Son, there's neo-brutalism, because I love brutalist buildings. There's just like all kinds of little details that are just in there because I love them. And I think, filling a world that you're writing in with the things that you love, you do that so that you enjoy spending time there. And you hope that a reader loves to spend time there too, because that's the great thing about science fiction and fantasy, is that you can go to a different place in your mind and the feeling of it stays with you even after the story is over. So,
right. That makes a lot of sense. And so going along here, I'm curious as to where you get your inspiration from with each project, because what I loved about like the Curse Bearer duology is that it's Chicago, but it's injected with Slavic folklore, and Arch Conspirator was a retelling of Antigone.
Right.
So it seems like you're inspired by both the world around us as well as traditional storytelling.
Yes. I really. I love to ask the question of why do these things continue to resonate with us? Like Antigone, for example, like if you read it now, it doesn't need updating. It will still be just as significant if you read it now as it probably was. That it's probably been throughout history. Because, I don't know, there's just like a real core of humanity to it that translates no matter what its context is. But as far as the folklore in the Curse Bearers books, I think that was like just a desire to reconnect to a part of myself that I felt like I wasn't allowed to access, because I'm so American, right? Like I'm not Polish in any like functional way, but my family is. So it's a way of getting to know myself. And I think, there's different motivations for each book. It's like, what do I love? What do I think about? What questions do I have? Those are all like valid reasons for writing something. So
for sure. Yeah. So it's like you can kind of keep a record in time of where you were at any given point.
Yeah, like what was I obsessed with at this moment, and maybe why, because I don't know, there's a lot. We could We could tug at that thread for a really long time.
For sure. And so your upcoming novel, Seek the Traitor's Son, took 6 years to write. And what about
yes,
this story?
Yes, it did. Sorry.
You're like, I remember all those years.
Yes, every single one.
So what was it about this story that really kept that creative flame burning for you?
It's all about these two central characters. So I couldn't figure out for a long time, like every draft was like an experiment kind of. So I didn't know if it would be fantasy, if it would be sci-fi, if it would be YA or adult, if it, I just like decided to play with it a little bit. But what I kept returning to is the dynamic between these two people, Elegy and Theron, who changed a lot over the course of drafts, but always had this connection where he fails her in a critical moment, and that's the start of their relationship, which is, I don't know, it's fun, a little angsty, and also just an interesting character study, I think. So they really brought me back to the story over and over again.
For sure. And so with, as you said earlier with Seek the Traitor's Son, there's the fever that kills everyone, but
yes.
Enough that some people come back with some mysterious powers. If you were to get infected with the fever, would there be like a specific ability that you would want to be resurrected with?
Well, oh man, what a question. I feel like I should be more ready for this than I am. So some people with the fever, very few come back and can see the future. Mm-hmm. Absolutely don't want that ability. Terrible. But most can see the past or alter the past. And I think some form of like reading the past in someone would be really cool, Mm-hmm. Like in the book, some people can see really far back, like to a person's ancestors and what they experienced. And I think that would be very cool, especially in this world that's so far in the future where they have a kind of information gap where they don't know how they got here because of various reasons. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that would be the best one for me.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Because there's just like so many questions that, really can't be answered, I suppose.
Yeah, and we know that, the historical records that survive are just, they're flawed, they're incomplete, and they're determined by who's in power. So if you had this ability to see backward, then you'd be able to kind of verify that record for yourself, which would be very powerful.
For sure. And so, switching gears here a little, I understand that you're a gamer as well.
Yes.
And you've mentioned your love of Mass Effect. Are there any other video game franchises that kind of live in your head rent-free?
Well, now I've played Baldur's Gate 3 twice, so clearly that one.
Yep, I've been there.
Yeah, it took me a while to get used to the combat, but, eventually I did. And of course The Witcher, which I also played through twice. So I'm a real repeater of games. And last year I got really into the Horizon games, Zero Dawn and Forbidden West. So those are all my core games right now. It's taken me a while to get good at learning games, which I think is like a real obstacle for entry or a barrier to entry for a lot of people, but I'm better now. My powers of fire are always like extremely strong. So that's my preference, is to light things on fire. I don't know why.
I mean, it's satisfying, And in the fact that, in our own world, we're generally not encouraged to do that.
Yes, we do not light fires.
Yeah. But in games, you can just be throwing fireball.
Yeah. The best thing in The Witcher is coming up on a group of people and flinging an igni at them that's so powerful they instantly burst into flames. Nothing feels better.
100%. And so it's just to close out here, is there anything that you've been nerding out about recently?
Well, it has been Baldur's Gate 3. But I also just started watching The West Wing, so for something completely different, a political fantasy show, basically. I would argue that is second world fantasy, that show. Because, it's obviously not what we're experiencing right now. But anyway, I don't know. Nerding out about that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean... Also, all of the walking scenes, the talking and walking.
I know, how do they do that? I can barely walk and talk at the same time. So
exactly.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, with all those stakes hanging over their heads.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know how they do it, but I think Martin Sheen was here yesterday.
What, really?
Yeah.
Man.
So maybe he knows.
I missed the president.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And this was great.
Yeah, thanks.